Welcome to Hard Talk. I'm Neamin Zeleke. Ethiopia is Africa's second most populous nation and has big ambitions to be a dominant regional power. It also has a new leader, Abiy Ahmed, who has pledged to heal internal divisions after years of authoritarian rule. Well, my guest is Neamin Zeleke, one of the leaders in exile of an Ethiopian opposition movement which has embraced armed resistance to the Addis regime. So, how real is the threat of conflict inside Ethiopia? Neamin Zeleke in Washington, D.C. Welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you.
Would you agree with me that given the appointment of a new Prime Minister, this is a moment of hope and opportunity for Ethiopia?
Yes, we see some opportunities and definitely hope. But the challenges and the political crisis facing Ethiopia are really enormous. And he has on his way way too much complex problems to tackle. So there is hope and there is an opportunity if he uses it, if he has the political will to use the opportunities to make substantive political and economic reforms.
The reforms may come, but should we pause for just a moment and reflect on how symbolically important it is that here we have a man who is, first of all, the first Muslim to be leader of Ethiopia, but also a man who comes from the Oromo ethnic part of the country and therefore breaks the monopoly on power that has been held by the Tigrayans inside the ruling coalition for the last quarter century or so. So would you accept that this does indicate a wind of change sweeping through your country?
Well, first of all, this is not the first time an Oromo leader came on power in Ethiopia. Previously, there were two Oromo prime minister and the leader of the military regime. But of course, he may identify himself primarily as ethnic Oromo. Second, definitely, as I said, there is hope and opportunity for the country because according to the information we have, he came to the helm as a chairman of PDRF and also subsequently prime minister as a result of internal struggle within the ruling APRDF, and he is apparently among those wanting some reform measures within the ruling APRDF. In that sense, if he follows through, then there is hope for the country.
And let me, if I
but
may,
still,
if
keep
I may,
in mind that APRDF is still the dominant authoritarian party, and he's the leader of that party. So his challenge will be to transform and reform the country towards a genuine political order.
Yes, indeed. So here's something he said around the time of swearing in as new PM. He said, "I apologize wholeheartedly to the families of human rights defenders, politicians, the change-seeking youth whose lives were snapped at a young age, and all of those who were subjected to psychological and physical crises." That apology is something which does change the atmosphere, does it not?
It does to a degree, but the regime, has been, known in the past to make public apologies after committing crimes, atrocities, and violations in various parts of Ethiopia. So this is not in particular, new for the leaders of the current authoritarian regime to apologize.
It's not just
there
words.
is a marked difference.
It's not just words, though. It's also actions. Under the outgoing PM Haile Mariam, we saw hundreds of political prisoners released, and indeed, in the first days of the new PM, we've seen more releases. 11 anti-government bloggers, journalists, and activists who were jailed. Actually, in March, during some clashes and security sweeps by the government, they were released, including some well-known online activists from the Zone 9 group, including 2 journalists, Eskinder Nega being one of them, who are well-known in Ethiopia as oppositionists. These are, again, I just wonder whether you're just being a little gloomy and a bit of a naysayer when some really important, different things are happening inside your country.
Yes, there are some changes. As I said, we see some glimmer of hope and opportunities going forward. But let's take, for instance, what you just said, the release of political prisoners. You know what happened? After they released hundreds of political prisoners, they rearrested, the most prominent one, including the one you mentioned, Eskinder Nega. The problem is not.
Yeah, but they've let him out again. I agree with you. They rearrested him, but now they've let him out again.
To begin with, with all due respect, all these political prisoners should not have been put in prison because they didn't commit any crime. Their only crime was to be a journalist like you and political dissenters like me. So this authoritarian, deeply authoritarian, brutal regime imprisoned in the past thousands of political prisoners in Ethiopia. These are just, few that were released. We still believe there are 10,000s of political prisoners throughout Ethiopia in many regions of the country, not only in Addis Ababa.
Yeah, but
so that has to end. Criminalization of dissent has to end. All these repressive laws the authoritarian regime, APDRF, has instituted, they have to be repealed, and the state of emergency has to be lifted. All these measures will indicate what you said, but if there is hope and opportunity.
Right. Is not the message of what has happened over the last 18 months, 2 years and more, that civil disobedience, mass peaceful protests on the streets of Ethiopia's towns and cities can work, and that you guys in exile who call for armed resistance have not been the agent and vehicle of change? It's the people inside the country committed to peaceful resistance who have achieved this change.
First of all, definitely we have an organizational outfit in exile. But keep in mind, it's a fact, we are also on the ground. We are deeply, in many parts of Ethiopia, we are active. Our movement works not only through armed struggle, but part of the civil disobedience that you mentioned. So we espouse not only an armed struggle, but we embrace all forms of struggle, including civil disobedience.
With respect, you are an organization which is deemed a terrorist organization and is outlawed inside Ethiopia. As I understand it, you inside the country operate with a secret cell structure. So you're not the people who've been on the ground organizing the protests on the streets, the protests outside gas stations and other forms of civil disobedience, because you're a secret cell structure banned organization. My point is that there are groups like, for example, the Kiro group in Oromo, who have been on the streets, active youth movements, who've achieved real change.
No, I think you have your information wrong. We are on the ground. Yes, we are banned and branded as a terrorist, but we do have structures inside Ethiopia undertaking and organizing civil disobedience, not only self-defense, armed undertakings, but also civil disobedience. Yes, it's true that the Kero and the Oromo areas and in other regions, other groups are organizing and leading this civil disobedience, but we are there as well. We are, in many parts of the country, part of this process.
Your movement is called the Ginbot Sabat movement, and you, as I understand it, have committed. Last May, you made this public commitment to, quote, depose the government by any means necessary. You talk to me. Yeah, you talk to me about armed resistance. Armed resistance. Armed resistance is not what has been happening in Ethiopia in terms of pushing the government to release prisoners and to change course. It is civil disobedience. And are you not playing into the hands of the hardliners in the ruling coalition when you talk about deposing the government by any means necessary?
When we say by any means necessary, it means all instruments of struggle, all forms of tactics we deploy to organize the people. That includes armored struggle. We have armored movements in the northern part of the country, and we also believe civil disobedience, economic embargoes and boycotts of all kinds to blunt the regime's repressive arsenals, to erode and to weaken the pillars of its repression. So we believe in all forms of struggle. When we say by any means necessary, we don't exclude civil disobedience as a very potent weapon to weaken the regime and to organize the people in this protest to depose the regime.
Where is your leader, the Ginbot Sabat leader, Nega Birhanu? Where is he?
Professor Birhanu Nega is currently in Eritrea.
In Eritrea?
Yes.
Yes, and Eritrea, of course, long-term hostile enemy of Ethiopia. It doesn't look good, does it, when you, and I know you go to Eritrea too, you spend all of your time not in Ethiopia and not always in Washington, but much of your time in a country which is the most hostile enemy of Ethiopia.
Well, Eritrea is the most hostile enemy of the regime in Ethiopia, not Ethiopians and Ethiopia. We disagree on that one. And, you know, this regime, especially the dominant Tigrayan TPLF People's Liberation Front, has worked with Eritreans to fight against the previous military regime, communist regime. So why would it be wrong for us to work with Eritreans?
Just makes me wonder. It makes me wonder about where your interests really lie. How much money does the Eritrean government give your organization?
I cannot speculate on that. They don't give us money, but they harbor thousands of our freedom fighters in Eritrea because that's the only safe and secure place for Ethiopians. You know, this brutal regime can go at will and whim in neighboring countries, Kenya, Uganda, Sudan, Djibouti, abduct and assassinate Ethiopian dissidents and even journalists like you. So the safest place for all those brutalized, persecuted Ethiopians is Eritrea.
But they do give you money, don't they? I mean, I've read the UN monitoring.
They may. Yes. I'm not going to speculate the amount, when and where. They may support us. They do definitely support our freedom fighters, yes.
Well, you denied they gave you money, but they do give you money. The UN monitoring...
I didn't deny.
All right, well, the UN monitoring... Well, then you surely know how much you're the foreign affairs spokesman for.
I just told you there are thousands of our freedom fighters, not only our organization, but others. They harbor and they shelter and they provide them with all forms of assistance.
Yes, it's many according to the UN, according to the UN monitoring group, it's many thousands of dollars a month are handed to you and your fellow leaders of Ginbot Sabat, and also arms and training camps inside Eritrea. I'm just wondering how all of this sounds to the Ethiopian people. They, of course, will remember the years of war with Eritrea.
We are the most popular organization, one of the most popular. We have millions of supporters in Ethiopia. I don't know if you have your data and information correctly or which versions of the reports. There are various reports from various entities that you are reading. But We have solid support in Ethiopia, and the Ethiopian people, they no longer see Eritrea and Eritrean people as enemies. It's the regime that has been, at loggerheads with, and also wants to, has hostile intention towards Eritrea and the Eritrean government.
Right, so you take the side, you take the side of Eritrea against your own government.
It is not our own government. Our own government is when we, the people, elect under free, fair elections our government. This is a dictatorial, tyrannical, brutal regime, a minority regime that has captured the state and the economy to benefit a few Tigrayan elites and their cronies, ethnic and political cronies. So this is not our government. Until we, the Ethiopian people, like you in Britain, under free and fair election, we elect our leaders, this is not our government. And that's the sentiment that is the sentiment of the majority of Ethiopians in Ethiopia.
You're going to have a problem if Dr. Abiy, in his role now as Prime Minister, makes good on his promise, which he stated again just a few days ago, to end the, quote, years of misunderstandings with the Eritrean government. And to that end, we will play our part. You're going to be in big trouble if the Ethiopian government reaches out a hand of friendship to Eritrea, because you'll be bargaining chips, and you and your fellow leaders of Ginbot Sabat may find yourselves without a home.
Well, we shall see when we get there, but I don't believe so. First of all, the minority regime has to withdraw from Badime. As you know, there is a long-standing, ruling by the commission, Boundary Commission, which awarded Badime the flashpoint of the dispute and conflict that led to that bloody war to Eritrea. But thus far, the regime has not withdrawn from Badime. These are, according to the ruling, sovereign territories of Eritrea. That will be, a very difficult undertaking for the regime, because most Tigrayans consider Badime as part of Tigray, not Eritrea. So we'll see when we get there anyway.
And just a quick word about Egypt, another country that does not have a good relationship with Ethiopia right now, not least because of disputes about water and the waters of the Nile. You are taking money and support from Egypt too.
That's the narrative and the fiction of the regime. We never took, money, neither weapons or any form of assistance from Egypt. But if it serves our end, and our end is to have a genuine democratic political order in Ethiopia like you have in Britain, we will deal with anybody except terrorists, with any government. Well, don't you think it's a double standard? Your government or any government deals with whoever serves their interests. So our interest is democracy, freedom, justice, equity in Ethiopia. And these are lacking in Ethiopia. That's why you have protests throughout Ethiopia in the past 3 years.
But with respect,
so long as it serves our purpose, we'll do it. But so far, we have not accepted any form of assistance from Egyptians.
So you say, but there's a very strange statement you just made to me, that we'll accept any assistance from anybody except terrorists. I mean,
yes.
You conduct terrorism yourselves. You've just said to me that...
Well, that's what the regime says. Look, under tyranny, being a rebel is a right. It's morally justified, not only politically, morally justified to defend yourself when your families are being tortured, when your sisters are being gang raped, when your father is being humiliated and murdered. That's what has been happening, and this minority regime, supported by those who champion or claim to champion democracy and freedom, throughout the world, including the UK.
But if you want to claim that you are better than the government in Ethiopia, I don't see how it helps for your people claiming loyalty to you to launch gun and bomb attacks.
With all due respect, you remember you interviewed Mallas Zenawi, Mallas Zenawi 10 years ago, I recall, you remember. And our leader, was among the victims, those thrown in jail, the leaders of CUD. He tried his best, and many others who formed Ginbot 7 were leaders of that CUD, including our chairman. They tried their best peacefully, and this regime doesn't understand peaceful struggle.
So you think it's now acceptable to launch gun and bomb attacks which kill dozens of people?
No. We don't believe in terrorism, and we don't promote terrorism. We conduct self-defense measures, armed activities in self-defense.
I just wonder...
And that's a right. Even under international law, self-defense, defending yourself, your families from brutality, atrocity, bordering genocide, ethnic cleansing that this brutal minority regime has undertaken throughout Ethiopia, it's a right to defend yourself. Don't you think? What would happen, let me ask you, what would happen if the IRA from Ireland comes take over Britain, okay, captures all the economy? Irish people, only 4 million out of the 60 million, they control the economy, they control the military, the security. What would you feel? And you, as a journalist,
are you not?
How do you react?
Are you not playing with fire here? We know that Ethiopia's ethnic mix is, to put it bluntly, fragile. And we know when you accuse the government of being a front for Tigrayan security, military and intelligence interests, we know that that kind of language is going to inflame ethnic tensions, given the mix of peoples in your country. And it seems to me, when you tweet things like this, and I'm going to quote a tweet of yours from just a month ago, you said, "Give me death or give me liberty. Either we live with freedom and equality, or oppression, injustice and servitude under this brutal fascist tyranny will be the option." You are laying things out in a way which seems to me leading only one way, and that's to the kind of terrible civil war that we have seen in Syria, for example.
We don't want a civil war in Ethiopia. We want peace, we want stability, we want prosperity, but with justice, freedom, like you, as I said, in Britain or any Western democracy. We want this unacceptable, brutal, tyrannical order to go. We need freedom. We need justice. We need equity. But it is a known fact now internationally that 6% of the population, if you read out all the reports recently that have been written by various journalists, Western journalists included, for the first time they are admitting that people who claim to represent 6% of the population out of 100 million have captured the state, the security, the military, and the economy. That's the truth.
But my last question, to avoid the possibility of terrible violence inside your country, do you not now have to give Dr. Abiy, the new PM, a chance to lift the state of emergency, a chance to develop a dialogue with the opposition, a chance to release the political prisoners? Give him a chance.
Yes, we will give him a chance. We have stated in no uncertain terms. We have issued a public statement and interviews, including by our chairman on VOA. We are willing to give a chance, provided Dr. Abiy, the Prime Minister, delivers what he has pledged: reconciliation, national dialogue, and instituting constitutional democracy and all the substantive political and economic reforms that the people of Ethiopia expect. Yes, we'll give him a chance.
All right, well, with that thought in mind, we must end this interview. But Neamin Zeleke, thank you for being on Hard Talk.